this morning, so we're just that amount over. So thank you for coming in. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Phil. Good to be in front of you again, councillors, and hopefully we can have a good interaction session this morning. Look, this is obviously about VO's draft statement of intent, and I just want to stress a couple of things. It is draft. You will make comments on it. We've got probably the opportunity to do further work on it, but particularly given that for this period of statement of intent, this next 3 years, our business changes. It changes because of the stadium. And it changes so much that I think it's important that you work with us in trying to understand it, and you're going to have an opportunity for a deep dive on that. I think it's the 20th of May. But it does impact our statement of intent. So I just wanted to make those few comments before I hand over to Caroline and the team to present the draft statement of intent, the highlights from it, because it's a longer document than that, obviously, and just invite you, if you like, to engage in it and engage again on the 20th of May, particularly around One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha. But thanks very much for the time.
Thanks, Gil. All right, well, nice to be here again, and excitingly, this is the first of our statements of intent where we've got One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha in operation, so we're pretty excited about that, as I'm sure you all are. So look, just some introductory comments from me. Obviously our statement of intent reflects the letter of expectation that you as our shareholder provides to us, and our statement of intent is obviously aligned with the Council's strategic objectives and community outcomes. As I've said, this is the first SOI where we've got a full financial model for One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, and it's got 2 years and 10 weeks of operation, so assuming the 20th of April 2026 is the day of practical completion. But you'll see from our draft statement of intent that this is genuinely a step change, and it's a step change for venues Ōtautahi and a step change for the city. And the stadium itself is going to be Aotearoa's premium stadium. And what you'll see by the forecasts are that this is testament to not only the fact that it is in the most perfect location, it's beautifully designed, and it's testament to your backing of the community sentiment to get this thing up and going back in 2021. But the venue is only one thing, so we've got to make sure that we've got a business that's set up commercially and operationally for that building to be successful, and we'll talk through some of those highlights as we look forward into the next 3 years. In the interest of time, we are going to focus on the highlights operationally and financially, and we'll crack into it. So obviously our mission is to strategically manage and leverage the venues to deliver social, cultural, environmental and economic benefit to the region. That is testament and underpins everything that we do. You're well versed in terms of what venues we are lucky enough and privileged enough to have in our portfolio. And this is our strategic framework, and I won't spend too much time on this, but you'll see we've got 5 delivery pillars and 5 enabling pillars. Those delivery pillars focus on revenue growth and diversification, enhancing the client and guest experience, innovation, technology and data, championing Ōtautahi in everything that we do, and attracting events to the venues to make sure that the utilisation is maximised. And all of those things that underpin our ability to deliver are people and protection, environmental and social impact, managing our assets, collaboration and partnership, and importantly, financial sustainability. And all of those things deliver those 3 critical outcomes around environmental, social, cultural impact. So to get into our operational performance, year 1 is slightly different than years 2 and 3. So year 1, you'll see consistent momentum across the VO portfolio of venues with respect to event numbers, guest numbers, carbon emission reduction, our health and safety performance, internal culture and engagement, championing Ōtautahi, etc. But with respect to One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, obviously we are continuing our operational readiness. We'll conclude those material commercial transactions that are remaining, and then we'll have 10 weeks of operation in this next financial year. But then there's years 2 and 3, and this is where we see a real step change. From an operational perspective, the step change comes in event volume, guest numbers, the volume of major events, a greater than 20% reduction in carbon emissions, the direct and indirect economic contribution to the region, always championing Ōtautahi. And then we have our financial step change. There's a circa 121% increase in operating revenues, and we'll get into those details in a minute. We are forecasting no longer needing council operational support, so that's a reduction of 3.25 million per annum. And we are in a position where we'll self-fund major event attraction also. And then as a result, obviously our subvention receipts will also reduce to nil, which is another 2 million. We'll obviously continue our positive momentum across all of those other aspects across the portfolio, but they're the real step changes when it comes to the impact of One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha as part of the portfolio of venues. So you'll see those highlights there. So our guest numbers are forecast to increase 84%, so around 500,000 to over 920,000. Events up 42%, so going from around that 380 to 550, and then a 75% increase in major events. And that's obviously, the draw card of One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, go from 16 to around 28. We then are enabled to do more for our community, so 50% increase there in the value of community discounts, and then consistent increases across our net promoter scores for client and guest experience. And again, these are consistent, so we'll continue to source 80% of our food locally. We'll engage 70% of our contractors and suppliers from the local region. We're forecasting an over 20% reduction in environmental and carbon emissions for the period, and then obviously 100% local staff. Now into the financial performance, so looking forward through 26 to 28. Obviously our strategic focus is on business and revenue growth and financial sustainability, and we've been working hard since 2019 to create a business and a framework that seeks to reduce council support as much as we possibly can, operational support, and focus on growth, but also cost efficiency and cost control. Concurrently, we've been developing the commercial and operational model for the stadium. Obviously, we want to maximise this opportunity for council and for the city. And to this point, the 2019 investment case and the 2022 VO analysis of that investment case have been the reference point, and we'll talk a little bit about those comparators. Our assumptions looking forward include a phased approach to resourcing. Obviously, we're gearing up, but not too soon, and looking toward that 20th of April as that practical completion date. We've already talked a little bit about those underpinning assumptions for the venue portfolio. Consistent growth. We're not seeing any forecasting any cannibalisation of content from other venues in the portfolio, and we've assumed Apollo Project Stadium will no longer be operational once One New Zealand Stadium Te Kaha is. Obviously, we're committed to being a living wage employer, so all of those aspects are included, and our general overheads are consolidated, so include One New Zealand Stadium. And we've talked about those assumptions around council support, and here's just a graph showcasing that. So you'll see the 3.25 million going to nil, the 2 million in subvention also going to nil, which is a significant saving across the period. We'll just get into some comparators. So and there's a bit of an apples with apples with the 2019 investment case. It was a very, very different model. And we'll talk about the materiality in a minute. But you'll see that the 2019 investment case averaged an annual revenue of between 7.4 million and 10.5 million. We're now looking at 31.5, 32 million for those 4 years of operation. The VO analysis back in 2022 was around the 18.9, 19 million. So you'll see that as a material uplift and there are reasons for that that we'll talk to. And similarly, with respect to operating profit, the 2019 investment case forecast a deficit in the first, a $250,000 surplus in the first year, and then a deficit in years 2 and 3. That's now 5.7, 5.8 in operating surplus. So the materiality of that step change is probably the big question. Oh. It's a good little story.
We don't get good news like that very often.
Yeah, now we have to give you confidence in those numbers. So, oh, good. So look, there's two aspects to the materiality of the step change, and one with respect to the 2019 investment case, which was a completely different operating model. It was an outsourced catering model. It was a standalone operator, so it didn't have those governance and management savings that we get from a portfolio approach. But then it obviously also talks to the strength of the commercial agreements that we've negotiated in the last couple of years. Obviously, naming rights, porridge, ticketing, content, all of those things are beyond what was forecast in the 2019 investment case, as well as executing those long-term partnerships that will guarantee content. So the likes of the Warriors, the Phoenix, Crusaders, obviously, and then also premium hospitality. The construct was completely different. That is the most material shift, is the volume of premium hospitality and the commercial models therein. So then there's the material step change from our last SOI and the analysis. So obviously with the stadium being at developed design, we don't have confidence with respect to capital and operational asset management and maintenance costs. Now we do. So we've had those independently completed for us, utilising WTP partnership that have already been working on the stadium, but do the town hall and the arena as well. And they've done that for the full cost model for the full life of the asset. Obviously, the last SOI was prior to negotiating those material commercial agreements and prior to the premium hospitality being confirmed in the model. It was also prior to confirmation of where the asset would sit, and was prior to the ticket levy also being included in our assumptions. So to give you some confidence, obviously, in those numbers, that talks to the materiality, but confidence. So we have significant contingency built into the model around operating costs, and that is significant. We've been conservative in our event forecasts, and to give you an example, we've got 86% of the number of business events in our forecast that were in the investment case. So again, conservatism has to be there, because yes, we have aspirations, and yes, we know how successful this venue is going to be, but we don't want to be in a position where we're making promises and writing cheques that we can't cash. We've taken a long-term sustainable view. So yes, there's going to be a honeymoon period, we all know that, but we have to account for the flattening of that, and we've done that in our long-term view. And we've been conservative with respect to premium hospitality. We've been here so many times talking to you about the demand. So our forecasts do not reflect that demand. They reflect a very conservative perspective on that demand. And we've also not included some of the inventory around sponsorship as well as premium hospitality, just to be on the safe side. So a couple of notes, and then we can get into your questions, which I'm sure you'll have many. One is, look, where we've tried to be self-sufficient is around operational expenditure, and that includes meeting those costs of attracting major events. And the reason we've done that versus any kind of capital saving is obviously that has the greatest impact on the ratepayer. So that's been our focus. There will still be capital support required across the venue portfolio, obviously with the town hall and the arena, but not until around circa year 7 or 8 of operation of One New Zealand Stadium. So no operational or capital support for the first 7 years. The pre-opening expenses that we've been meeting through our cash reserves for the last 3 years or so are still there as reimbursed in the first next 2 years. And then obviously we've also already talked about the reduction of those subventions. Turf management. Turf is being looked after obviously by the council team, so those costs are excluded from the model, always have been, and obviously those asset ownership costs are also excluded, particular reference to rates and insurance. So look, it's a really good news story where, look, we knew that the venue, based on what its design is, the demand for it, the demand for premium hospitality, I think it's exacerbated in a good way by everyone's been waiting for this for a long time, and I think it's going to deliver more than we ever expected, and we can see that in our forecasts. But it genuinely is testament, A, to picking a wonderful location, a brilliant design, a right-sized venue, and for you backing it, because it's going to be incredible. So thank you for that, and we'll take your questions.
Andre, please.
Thank you. Can you please just refresh my memory on what you consider major? Different.
Yeah.
Is-
Yeah, so do you want to talk to the definition? Yeah.
Yeah, so definition is any international cricket at Hagley Oval, Wolfbrook Arena, over 5,000 people attending a event,
Yeah.
and then all international games at One New Zealand Stadium, and other content over 10,000 people. So that's for venues Ōtautahi definition of a major event, which is 16 to 28 in the projections.
Beautiful, very exciting. Thank you.
Sam?
Hey, thank you. That is good news. So pleased to see that. A couple of things. So the financial performance targets are 26, 28 on that slide 16, I think it is. Just where so you got operating the draft SOIs 5.7 mil in 26, 27. Yeah, that one there.
That one? Yep.
And then 27, 28 is 5.8. This will be the silliest question of the day, hopefully. What happens to that operating profit?
Yeah. Oh, Jamie, I'll hand over to you.
Is that to fund what do we do with it? Does it come back here? Does it go to offset other costs?
So this is operating profit
Yeah.
rather than EBITDA. So EBITDA is essentially break even. That's covering all the remaining costs of operating the portfolio of venues.
Yeah.
So facilities maintenance and other things below that operating profit line.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand is what's the sort of net return to council, not necessarily in cash, but in cash we don't have to put out the door.
Yeah, so EBITDA is we're break even in that 20, oh, there you go.
This is probably the easiest way to see. So
Yeah.
the reduction from 4.7 million of funding in 26-27 to 1 million of operational funding. And again, 4.7 to 0 and 27-28 from an operational funding point of view. This doesn't account for any reduction in bid incentive requirements as well.
Right. Okay. So just so I've got it clear in my mind, we're effectively saying that it just seems we're taking on a big asset in the middle of the city where we'd be expecting, we always thought we'd be contributing more to it. Mm-hmm. But now what you're saying is actually the commercialisation of it has meant that we're going to end up giving you less money than we budgeted for.
Yep.
That's very good
Quite a
news.
significant amount less.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So then, just in terms of the business case at the beginning, did we always have it so that rates and insurance were excluded?
No, so they were part of the model.
Right.
Yeah, but it was, but the model itself was completely different when it came to the construct of the operator.
Right.
So, for example, there wasn't, it was an outsourced catering. So obviously we're 59% of our revenue is food and beverage.
Yep.
So the model, it's almost, you can't compare the two models. And that's why that analysis from 2022 is the better comparator.
I guess what would be maybe useful if takeaway if this team can pull together is just something, because I think there's some stuff floating around online and in the media and stuff like that today. It'd just be good to be really clear on what we thought the council was going to have to contribute, and then it's sort of that apples with apples. So if that was what it was, then actually, you've commercialised a heap of this, but that means that we're not incurring costs as well. So is that something we could do ideally today or tomorrow?
We'll do a bit more of a deep dive on the investment case analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. We'll
It would
get
just
some
be
key
good.
stats.
Then we
for
can
you.
be really clear with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, Cal?
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. I mean, those words just sort of slip past everybody. I think, venues Ōtautahi eliminating the need for council operating support No, I know. I noticed that you got it. What is so unique about this situation in terms of the running of a stadium in New Zealand? You know, can you touch on that? Because so many people thought that the stadium was going to end up costing us so much.
Yeah, look,
So
and
what's unique about this?
the capital renewal, the asset renewal remains. So there is still contribution from a capital perspective. It's just that it's not for some time. The difference with this stadium is, one, we've managed to create some long-term partnerships with some quite different commercial constructs that are delivering long-term guaranteed content. And what that does is it underpins the demand and the ability to sell premium hospitality, and a lot of it. And what we've also managed to do is create premium hospitality options in places that weren't designed for them. So there are certain pockets of the venue that you can actually create more club-like types of environments. And that was a lot of learnings that you get from the likes of the venues in America, for example, because they create a lot of opportunities to sell high-end premium hospitality. And that doesn't mean that the venue is devoid of general admission, because there's plenty of it, but it just means commercially it's delivering greater outcomes.
Yeah, and definitely the portfolio approach goes a long way too. One venue alone is really important, but you put 5 really powerful, diverse venues that don't compete with each other, you get a really good result and cost savings and efficiencies.
Yeah.
Yanni, please.
Cool, thank you. Thank you for the update. I had several questions. The first is, in terms of getting ready for the opening, have you done any updated traffic modelling on how people get to the stadium? I was quite surprised on our walkabout, and possibly it was just a thing that I didn't pick up on, but the main entrance is on the other side of the stadium where we're not doing the roadworks. So I'm quite concerned about just to understand the latest traffic modelling for the opening of the stadium, and whether we need to do any more roadworks around the main entrance so that people have a good experience.
Look, that's probably something we can even add to our conversation for May. Obviously, that's a partnership between council and us, and we'll work through all of that. Look, as far as the work that we've done to date with council is that traffic will and pedestrian traffic will work well. It won't be without its challenge. It is a venue in the middle of the city, but let's take that and perhaps deep dive that when we do that workshop in May.
Yeah, there's
And will that
definite
include
engagement though.
parking as well?
Yeah.
Because they don't know where people are going to park. Well, I actually think they'll park on the eastern side, and again, that's the area that we've done no transport planning on.
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of engagement with council. So yeah, to Caroline's point, we can definitely go into it in May and give you a bit more confidence and shape what it could and will look like if that's all good.
In terms of the local
Can you make this last one, please, Yanni? Because I've got a few banged up behind you, please.
Yeah, sure. So just in terms of the local procurement, I was, I guess, surprised that we weren't using a local beverage supplier. So is there any I just trying to understand as we move to the stadium, how we're measuring the use of local companies and local suppliers?
Yeah.
Because I do agree with in your statement around the champion Ōtautahi, and it would be great to know, just I think, to have a bit more detail around how we're supporting local businesses as opposed to New Zealand businesses.
Yeah. So look, as you will all know, sourcing local is at the heart of everything that we do. But with the stadium, there are a few more challenges just when it came to beverage. So, and again, we have to balance sourcing local and commercial viability, and it always is one of those tricky propositions. We also, with the stadium, need to maintain flexibility. So the likes of One New Zealand Warriors will have their porridge partner line. And then the All Blacks with Steinlager, etc. So we need to have that flexibility as well. And so that's why we've chosen a partner that allows that flexibility, sources their barley from Darfield, sources their hops from a bit further down in the South Island, is physically based here in Christchurch, So we tried to balance as much as we possibly could with commercial viability, flexibility, and local. That partner as well also is willing to have flexibility with respect to having some other lines, so for the likes of Castles in the stadium, for example. It also means that we can be predominantly local with beverage for
Thanks,
the town
Caroline.
hall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Yanni. So I've got Tyler.
It's unreal. Thank you for that. I just wanted to quickly delve into two quick things. The first one was the long-term partnerships and their models. And it's referenced here, you've got the One New Zealand Warriors, Crusaders and Wellington Phoenix. Can you tell me how that's sort of structured? I'm sort of not sure how venues gain income from these partnerships and what that's like transactionally.
Yeah, obviously we can't go too much into
No, of
the
course not.
commercial details, but do you want a
Yeah.
high level?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just gives us certainty from guaranteed content. So that's real of a winner, because if we can guarantee content at the stadium, we know what that spits out, like food and beverage at 59%. So without that content, it looks quite different. So having the models are very different in terms of, Canterbury Rugby versus Crusaders, Warriors, Phoenix. But what it means is we have surety that we can budget to, noting that those teams will play at the venue as well. So that's really where the win is, to
That's
be
good
honest.
to know.
And the quality of the venue, it stacks up for them to play here.
Yep.
And we can never forget that. They're doing well financially in Christchurch, and long may it continue.
That's great to know. Which leads me on to the last one, is around the portfolio approach. Would you be able to talk to us a bit more about that? I'm sort of wanting to understand a bit more about how you guys work it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a Venues Ōtautahi point of view, we've got strong relationships across business events, promoters, sporting teams as well. So when you plug another venue in, we've already got the relationship. We've got trust with whether it's a promoter, Live Nation, TG, Frontier, or all the sporting teams, all the business events, professional conference organisers, the strong EAPA community. They know who we are, we know them, and that's important. So that just helps you speed up to fill a new venue, opposed to going from scratch. But also, one of the many examples is like a sales team. We don't need to double or triple our sales team because, again, we're talking to the same person. So staff inefficiencies are huge in that as well across all parts of our business.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mark, please, and then Sarah. Did you want to say? Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Great presentation, great story. I did pick up on one thing in there, the Air Force Museum. You'd be, I guess, early stage talking to them about their potential expansion of a new venue for you in the new aircraft hall.
Yeah.
That would be something which could bring a slightly different slant, I'd imagine, to the portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, the Air Force Museum adds a wonderful, unique venue as part of the portfolio. And I think what, Danny's been talking about is that this is the wonderful thing about this portfolio and the assets that the city has, which is there's something for everyone, and there's a place for all of those different types of events. So Christchurch is so well positioned, better positioned than anybody. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sarah, please.
Thanks so much. Awesome work, thank you. It's just a question for Mary. So when the business case analysis stuff comes back that Sam's requested, can we get just a rundown on the costs that still stay with council, please?
So that's the capital debt costs.
Oh, just all of those costs.
All
So
the costs,
the capital debt costs, the insurance rates, turf, that kind of stuff. That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. No. We're well over time. So thank you very much for coming back and keeping us up to speed. Good news indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Gil. Good to see you, mate.
Everyone.
Okay, so we've got public excluded at 11 o'clock, please. So we're gobbling into a bit of let's have a quick cup of tea and we're back into it.